Good afternoon, everybody. This is Abram Mormon, working on the GRE ton across the BGP Internet Router Lab that was uploaded by David Bomball for GNS3. I have the requisite viral images. So I have all the routers configured into my topology. I'm using Ubuntu, using the GNS3 appliance that can be found on gns3.com in the marketplace. So I've started the routers. Let's start by configuring ISP2, and we're going to console into that one. As you can see, the router is up. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to change the host name. Alright, now let's configure it to do routing with the IP routing command. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to configure each one of the individual interfaces. So let's configure GI00. 24-bit mask. Now, you don't have to do this, but this is just best practices for me. I've done this in my role as a network administrator, network engineer for a long time. It's just standard practice. I'll always do no IP redirects, no IP directed broadcast, and no IP proxy ARP on all of my layer 3 interfaces, whether they are physical interfaces or if they are SVIs. So let's no shut that interface. Let's go to the net. We see that it came up there, so let's go to the next interface. Is interface GI01. Put the address on there. Make sure we get that subnet mask in there correct. And we configure. And let's bring that interface up as well. So we configured our two interfaces. Both of them are up. So now what we want to do is get BGP going. Simple BGP configuration. So let's start our BGP instance. We have it at 65,000. Now let's tell it that we're an address family of IPv4. So what we're doing here. And it's going to be a unicast network. So now we're going to come here and we're going to do the networks that we have, which is 8.8.0 with a mask of 255.255.255.0, the 24-bit mask, and we have a network of 8.8.9.0 with a mask of 255.255.255.0. Then we see here that let me move this terminal out of the way, that we're going to have remote ASs of .2s for each one of those networks. So let's set that up. Of 8.8.8.2 remote AS of, it's going to be 65,000 as well. And then we have a neighbor of 8.8.9.2 remote AS of 65,000. So we're going to do that. Let's write the mem on that to make sure we save our configuration. Now we're going to move this over here. Now we're going to come in console into ISP1. Let's look at our configuration on this one. Let's change the host name. Let's turn on IP routing. Now, the next thing that we're going to do here is configure our requisite interfaces. So let's start with interface connected to ISP2. Well, ISP2, I'm sorry. I'll have ISP. I had to the customer. Let's go to ISP2. So, there's that one. No, shut that interface. We should see that interface come up here. That interface comes up. Now we're going to configure the second interface, which goes to the customer side. And we're going to have it 8.8.8.10.1. Too many numbers. My apologies for that one. Zero. Alright. No, shut that interface. So we've configured that. Now let's configure BGP so that we can get everything going there. So router BGP 65,000, and then we're gonna go address family IPv4. It's gonna be unicast. Put our two networks in there, which is 8.8.8.0 mask, a 24-bit mask, and the 8.8.10.0 network with a 24-bit mask as well. Then we're going to put our neighbors in there. For this one, let's do the 8.8.10 to show you nothing happens. So 8.8.10.2. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and rename this customer section and make their BGP session be 65,001, and then we'll make customer side 2 be 65,002. So 2001. That's one neighbor. Now we're going to make the neighbor here, since both of those finishes are up. When we tell it that the neighbor of 8.8.8.1 with a remote AS of 65,000, those two, and there we see adjacency just changed. And if you saw here on ISP2, now we have adjacency. So we have that one there. Let's write the mem on that, because this is what we want to do first in any networking engineering section where it's involving WAN links. What I like to do is I like to make sure that everything that should have connectivity over some external router protocol, which most likely be BGP, I want to make sure that we have layer 3 connectivity first. You can't do any of the other tasks as far as configuring a tunnel, configuring the EIGRP for either side until you have basic layer 3 connectivity coming from all of these interfaces. This interface here, GI01, will not be able to get to the GI01 of this interface until we have layer 3 connectivity up and verified all the way through. We know right now we have layer 3 connectivity between ISP1 and ISP2. So now let's work on ISP3. Let's jump in here. change the host name. Let's configure. Make sure IP route is turned on. Now let's configure our interfaces. Sorry about that. Two. Our standard defaults here. Let's bring that interface up. The interface will show up here in a second. There it is. Now let's go configure GI01. Standard stuff here. There's no shut it. Alright, that's up. Now, we've got our interfaces configured. Now let's go configure BGP. And now we're going to do cast. Set up our networks here. Alright. I'm going to come here and we're going to set up our neighbors. We're going to set up down here to customer 2 first. Maybe 65,003. Now we're going to configure up to ISP 2. That one, and now we should see that adjacency come up here shortly. Boom, there we go. So now save that configuration. Always want to make sure you save your configurations. Now we have those are configured. Now the easiest way to do, let's go verify. Let's go console back into. Let's bring this console back up into for ISP1. Now ISP1 should be able to ping this interface here, since it is up, which is the 8.8.11.1 interface. Let's see if we get our connectivity here. Huh. So we got an issue there. So let's do show IP BGP neighbors. So now let's do a show IP route. I learned about 8.10 to 8.11. Let's go to ISP3. And let's double check a couple things here just to make sure. Both are up. So let's look at the BGP section here. And we are showing our that's a neighbor there, And our networks are being shown 8.8.11.0. Okay. You know what? We have to figure out default route. That is my mistake there. I'm sorry. Left out. 8.8.8.1. And then we're going to come over here to ISP3. I did it again. Alright. Forgot. Didn't have. It's my fault, ladies and gentlemen. My fault. So now I should be able to ping that interface. Boom. Forgot about default routes. I'm thinking wrong. They're different autonomous system numbers, so they won't know. I'm sorry, they're the same autonomous system number, but since they're not directly connected, they won't get the information. So let's go to ISP2. I think I know what I may have done. 65,000. 8.8.